Padre Balduzzi, allora, lei che cosa risponderebbe a quanti sostengono che gli alieni sono già fra di noi?
Non si può più pensare è vero, non è vero, sono veri o sono falsità, ci si crede o non ci si crede, no. Oramai ci sono varie considerazioni che fanno dire con certezza che l'esistenza di questi esseri c'è, non si può dubitare. Magari si potrà dire che su 100 fenomeni ce ne saranno, anche se si dicesse 99 non vero e uno vero, c'è quell'uno che dice che certi fenomeni esistono. Quindi questo è il primo problema, non rientra più nell'ambito della prudenza umana, dubitare, perché la prudenza dice di essere prudenti, ma non di negare.
Con quali conseguenze sotto il profilo della religione, della filosofia?
Non c'è alcuna conseguenza negativa, tutto è contemplato, mica il Signore ci ha rivelato tutto. E quindi si può pensare benissimo anche alla stessa redenzione umana. Cristo rimane sempre il centro dell'universo, ma nell'universo c'è tutto, non solo il mondo, ma ci sono le migliaia di stelle, le migliaia di galassie e ci sono, non voglio adesso dire numeri, ma indubbiamente si può pensare e ragionevolmente a questo punto, ed entriamo qui nella seconda questione, come si spiegano, alla esistenza di altri mondi abitati. In che maniera abitati? Da chi abitati? Vede, c'è un detto che risale ancora a secoli fa, natura non facit saltus, la natura non fa salti, cioè c'è il regno vegetale, il regno animale, il regno umano e il regno angelico, le uniche cose, 4 regni che conosciamo. 3 sono naturali e li vediamo. Tra l'uomo, l'essere umano e l'angelo c'è un salto un po' grosso da fare. Ecco perché già con questo argomento della convenienza, che è illustrato molto bene da San Tommaso, uno dei più grandi teologi, è probabile, è verosimile, ecco, più che altro, che tra l'uomo, che ha già uno spirito in sé, ma povero spirito, è soggetto alla materia in una maniera incredibile, basta alla sera uno sente il bisogno di andare a letto, mentre l'anima non ha bisogno di dormire, basta una piccola malattia, insomma, è talmente imprigionato. E l'angelo, che è solo spirito, è verosimile che ci siano altri esseri i quali abbiano un'anima, diciamo così, che è meno legata, meno subordinata al corpo, e un'anima di questo genere è ovvio che può compiere progressi che noi, per quanto ne facciamo tanti in questi ultimi decenni, non saremo in grado.
Probably won't be seeing aliens at mass anytime soon, but the Vatican's chief astronomer does say that there could exist other forms of life outside Earth, and he says if they do exist, they are God's creatures.
8, 9, 10, 11, contando toda la cola. Ay.
Universe, so big, huge, I would say. As the one where we live, with 100 billion of galaxies, with each galaxy with 100 billion of stars. Probably with many of these stars having planets, it could be possible that a life could evolve as the way we know on Earth.
Father Funes says he is not sure if other forms of life would be more or less intelligent than humans, but he is convinced that the existence of aliens is not a contradiction with the Catholic faith. There has been no word from top Vatican officials about Funes' comments, but some people on the street find them odd.
Ooh, look at them!
I got that one on video.
There's 4 of them. Look at there's 3 of them all together.
I got the 3rd one popping in.
To your left. There's one behind the chimney. One just flared up.
I got 4 of them. Major sighting here.
No, there's 5.
Oh!
Another one just showed up. They're multiplying.
Whoa!
Maybe somebody's setting up lights.
No, those are in the sky.
There's one underneath the house, too.
There's one behind that chimney.
Okay, come
We need to go to Pecos.
I can't see how this works. How does this
Holy
work?
Oh, you got to
shit.
Have you seen that before?
No. They're lined up in a pattern, man. There's geometry behind this.
The Vatican is looking to the heavens for signs of life.
An incredible story coming out of the Vatican. Listen to this. The senior Vatican scientist said that he would be delighted if we encountered intelligent aliens and would be happy to baptize them. His pronouncement opens up the possibility of space missionaries heading out to the stars to convert aliens to Christianity. We're going to talk with a couple guests in a moment about this story. First, though, Richard Hoagland from the EnterpriseMission.com. Richard, what does this all mean?
Well, you know, the drip, drip, drip is becoming a splash, splash, splash. This is obviously planned run-up to disclosure. I mean, there's no other way to account for this. This guy is the Pope's chief astronomer. He is in charge of the Pope's meteorite collection back in Rome. I didn't know the Pope had a meteorite collection.
Well, he must have a good one.
And he's speaking tomorrow at the British Science Festival in Birmingham, but he's just down the street when the Pope coincidentally happens to be in London when he makes this series of major pronouncements officially. This is not like, Cardinal Balducci. This is official on-the-record Vatican policy. Remember when they said that the aliens or ETs would be our brothers and sisters?
This was the same guy who said that.
It's drip, drip at an increasing pace. Now, in a few days at the Stephen Greer's Transformation Conference down in Arizona, I'm going to be presenting some extraordinary new data on how all this fits into a disclosure paradigm that is racing at us at Warp 9, at his Rio Rico conference. And all I can say is that there's going to be an accelerating cascade of these events, not only from the Vatican. I mean, the Pope is in London to, brief her on the Vatican's perspectives on extraterrestrials? And you're going to see things coming from our administration. There's a lot of clues that we're getting closer to some kind of official movement this fall. Remember, there's this big conference, the ESA conference going on in Rome beginning next week, where the Phobos data is supposed to finally come out that we've been talking about for months and months and months. So, no, I'm not surprised, and I'm looking forward to what your guests have to say, and all I can say is the big news here is not that the church is saying we would baptize aliens. I mean, give me a break. It's the legitimization of the conversation that aliens exist, George, and regardless of whether there are fake plans afoot, the false flag, or it's the real deal, it's irrelevant because there's enough data on the public record now, our work, Stephen's work, a lot of other work, that regardless of politically where this is tried to be bent, to be manipulated, the truth will come out as soon as the idea of aliens is legitimized, and that's why this story is of major import tonight.
Well, I'm glad you pointed it out to us, Richard. Richard hopped all over the story. And, of course, the father of modern-day ufology. In one of my very first radio interviews of the paranormal and the unusual back in 1971 was none other than with Stanton Friedman. What is your reaction to this story that sounds kind of funny, that the Vatican would love to baptize any ETs?
Well,
Come on.
When the Pope said last year, I guess it was, that, God made us, he made them, our brethren in outer space, and my first reaction was, what does he know that we don't know? It sounds like he was getting a billion Catholics ready for the big disclosure, doesn't it? I mean, why else would he say something?
The Vatican's chief astronomer, Reverend Jose Gabriel Funes, recently announced that believing in alien life does not contradict the teachings of the Bible. That is, of course, unless the aliens are gay, Jewish, or have had an abortion.
Allora perché? Chi potrebbero essere
Queste persone sono gli extraterrestri, sono persone come noi, che hanno un
extraterrestrials
corpo come noi.
that have a body like ours.
In questi UFO,
In these extraterrestrial
che io prendo poi quando parlo,
vehicles,
lo prendo in senso largo, cioè anche delle persone che o sono dentro
He says, I'm using this in a large sense. Or the people are inside the craft.
Words you were never meant to hear.
It's clear we're dealing with a cosmic Watergate.
This is the biggest secret in the history of the human race, the known modern history of government.
Photos you were never meant to see. Video you never knew existed. People you were never meant to meet.
As Jack Nicholson would say, you can't handle the truth.
Essentially everything that you would want to know has been covered up.
Things you were never meant to know about.
Out in the universe, they were horrified. They said, oh my God, the kids have found the matches.
We are being engaged as a planet and as a species by other beings.
The biggest secret in the history of our world is about to be revealed.
We're dealing with a big, big story. It's not just them. As I said, if it was that simple, it would probably been out some time back. It's really about us.
Did the Vatican find alien life?
You know what? As sensationalistic as that question sounds, it's really not that far off from what we've seen in the news over these last days. The pictures of what might have been Pope Benedict standing on the roof of the Sistine Chapel looking for UFOs. That's the type of images that this news conjures up. What is exceptional is that the Vatican was taking very seriously what science might tell us about the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligent life forms. That's what the conference was about. I can't tell you that the Vatican found any alien life. I don't think that's what they were looking for, but they were taking very seriously the issue.
You know the history, just like we do. I mean, they've come a long way since Galileo 400 or 500 years ago. Well, what do you think it says about the Church that it's actually looking at this issue?
Well, a great question, Bill. What it says is that although there have been some inglorious moments of relationship of faith and science, the Vatican, and not just Catholics, Christians in general, they brought 30 of the best scientists, the astrobiologists, of the cosmologists, of the astronomists, to tell the philosophers and the theologians what they already know about the possibility of something that could happen. Now, what they're trying to do is get out of the story, get out ahead and say, what if we were to find life outside of this planet? What does that tell us about the doctrine of original sin, of Adam and Eve? And their point here is that we have to allow science to lead us in what is their field, without going into it with ideology saying we know that God doesn't exist or something.
I think that's a great point. Now, you as a Roman Catholic priest, you're open to science, is what you're saying, correct?
Without a doubt, not only open, Bill, but we have to respect science in its own field.
How would it change the Church's teaching then? Well, if you consider for a moment, if you determine that there is extraterrestrial life there?
Well, one thing would be fascinating would be not only extraterrestrial life, but if it were extraterrestrial intelligent life forms. That would definitely make us go back and say, maybe our understanding of perennial truths needs to be updated. Now, the way we look at it is this. It's not about whether or not God was the creator, but rather how he created. It's not a question of whether original sin, this Adam and Eve story, is true or not, but our understanding of how that played out. So it's growing in our understanding of perennial truths.
I think that's an interesting explanation there. And I think also if it were determined, Father, that would be an earthquake, would it not? in church teaching?
It would be, and especially if the Vatican were involved in accepting that. I think we have to make sure that science is not in some way ideologically driven. We have to make sure that faith and religion is not ideologically driven. Faith and reason, they go together.
Well, you represent the church very well in this segment here. Now, I know they've had the conference. When they determine something, if they do, come on back, okay? Father Jonathan Morris.
If I see anything, I'll tell you.
Done.